Let's talk about good cops. So where they at? Where they at? The drive for evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Yeah, we're all them good cops that people keep telling me bad apples make good cops look bad. But if 99% of cops are as good as they say, they should be able to lock a couple bad apples away. And yet they don't. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Cause their highest duty's protecting and serving their own. The first rule of policing means when in doubt they'll shoot. And if they make a mistake, other cops will hide the truth. Even if they want to report a cop, they know that they can't. You're as good as dead on the force if you get labeled a rat. Plus a union rep will protect you from ever losing their job. And you wonder why there's criminals enforcing the law? Just ask a good cops. So where they at? Where they at? The drive for evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Police are trained a lot to make an arrest, but they're not required to help you when you make a request. They got no affirmative duty to either serve or protect, and they're immune from prosecution if they choose to neglect. Look at the precedent set by Talaferro, Douglas, and Warren. No one protected Jessica Gonzalez's daughter, and when she went to court to hold someone accountable for it, Scotus told us that it was legal for the cops to ignore. That's because the cop is an enforcer and his job's to collect, stealing money, kicking asses, and cashing forfeiture checks, writing ridiculous tickets and waging war on drugs. Our city budgets are funded by waging war on us, thanks to the good cops. So where they at? Where they at? The drive for evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Sometimes a cop will say it's not my fault, I'm just doing my job, I'm not the guy who writes the laws. I was following orders, honoring the oath I swore. And I'm like Nuremberg, war trial, principle 4. And some people seem to believe that if they don't do crime, that the cops will leave them alone and that they'll be just fine. Go ahead and tread on the Constitution, we don't mind. I can't believe that these people can even be so blind. See, what they don't understand is that the problem at hand is systemic. It goes beyond a single woman or man. When good people let evil people keep on laying the plan, the banality of evil lies in obeying command. Just ask a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? The drive for evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Good cops. So where they at? Where they at? The drive for evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at? Where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough.
Cell411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
Daddy, what do taxis pay for?
Oh, why everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine. And let's not forget the folks who just don't feel like working, God bless them.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be free.
You're listening to Peaceful Anarchism with your host, Danilo Cuellar, presented by Some Next Level Podcasts on the SNLS Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network on TheSeasLiberty.com and TheConsciousResistance.com. So the Peaceful Anarchism show is covered by the BIPCOT No Gov license. This allows reuse by anyone except for governments and the agents thereof. You can find out more information for this at bipcot.org. So today we have Rob Hustle. I've been trying to get this guy on for a long time. Finally got him. He's a conscious rapper, a content creator. trying to make the world a better place. Isn't that a wonderful thing? We need more of those people. So his website, you can contact him, is robhustle.com, and you can find him on Facebook, facebook.com/robhustle. He makes it hard to find him. And so we're going to talk about his recent single, Good Cops, which is the follow-up to the hit viral music video, Call the Cops, or otherwise known as This Is What Happens When You Call the Cops. And also his project that he's working on with a friend, or through a friend, in Uganda, called Ugandan Hope. So we're going to hear what that's all about. So Rob, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I heard you on Anarchast a while ago, and thought it was really awesome what you're doing. And my brother is a rapper, so I have a special place in my heart for people trying to send a message through rap.
You got to send me some links. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you. He's on SoundCloud. Yeah, mostly SoundCloud. But yeah. So I've interviewed quite a few rappers: Eric July, Jared Howe, Mason Moore. Neema Vedadi.
Love Neema.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. So really, really awesome. I love it. So please get into a little bit of your background, how you got into, well, I guess, were you rapping about other things before you really started rapping about, I guess, social issues or things that really matter, or things that, you want to improve the world or spread message or spread information? Like, how did you get into that?
I didn't start out as an activist at all. I mean, I've been rapping forever, but mostly just for fun. Like, me and my friends would go out and freestyle. We would freestyle in the parking lots for, just because we liked it as an art form. It's just something we enjoyed to do. When I lived in Hawaii, we would go surfing and we'd freestyle and we'd eat a plate lunch, that was just kind of stuff that we did. And I kind of came at rap sideways. Like, we started doing freestyles and people really liked it. So then we would get little teeny shows and more people kind of heard about it. And then as I got involved in other things in my life, I would just make little raps kind of as a joke, just as, for fun. So I did I did a lot of raps about like video games and like StarCraft, stuff like that, just for fun, to get it out there. And I was always influenced by groups that had a message. Like, one of my favorite MCs is Chuck D from Public Enemy. I've always liked KRS-One. So some of those like real old school guys that spoke on things, and then things started happening, and I noticed that, I don't know, kind of, it's hard to convey ideas logically, right? Like, if you want to convince someone of something, just trying to win the argument rarely changes their mind. Even if you won the argument, you'll probably just leave the other guy pissed off or something like that. It's very rare to be able to open someone up to an idea in a way that they don't feel confronted. And I noticed that art was a really good way to do that. If someone's feeling your song, or if someone likes your music, or I also do stand-up comedy, if someone's laughing at your joke, right? It brings down the defenses in a way that they're very open, because on a visceral level, they have responded to what you've said. So now you don't have to convince them logically that you're right. Emotionally, they can feel it. So now they're open to discuss it with you, and you can work together. So, just with that kind of an insight, I was looking around thinking, there's a lot of things that could be discussed using art as a way to kind of broach the subject that would get past people's defenses that, say, just arguing with them or logical arguments wouldn't do. So I was waiting for people to do it. I was like, where's our Chuck D? Where's our KRS-One now? Like, where are the people that are going to speak about this stuff now? And I never considered myself one of them. I just like to rap. But then it dawned on me that if I don't do it, no one will, because no one actually cares about it. Like, no one cares about it the way I do. So even if you don't think you're good enough to do it, even if you don't think that you're like, that you want to be some rapper, if you have the ability, you might as well put it out there, because some people might respond. So that was the genesis of any of the songs that I've made, is just, I felt like someone needed to say something. I didn't feel like anyone else was going to do it. So I said, okay, well, I'll just put it out there and see what happens.
Wow, that's beautiful. I will mention one thing that you said about the stand-up comedy. I did not know that. That is awesome. I also did stand-up comedy for a year.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. So I have some YouTube videos. Do you have YouTube videos?
I put them on private, but I can send you some links to them.
Yes, I'll include, I have like 15 videos on YouTube, but like 2 of them are my all-time best, and then the rest of them like mediocre. So one of them I actually got booed.
That means you're doing something right.
I know I did get better, and I really approached it like I approach most things in life, which is I was dedicated to improving it. Like it was a trial and error thing. You go up there, you try new jokes, doesn't work. You tweak it a little bit, you fix it up, you go up there again. You just you gotta be relentless, and that's how it was. So I'm curious, do you still do that?
Not as much, but it's something that I have a passion for, so I'm gonna get back to it. Like I said, I'm just strapped for time right now. But a project I've always wanted to do, that's been a passion project of mine for a while, that I keep in my pocket, is I've always wanted to do like an anarchist libertarian comedy tour. Just get a bunch of people like you, me, get a couple more, and like a big headliner, and just do a little tour of that style of humor. I think it would be great.
Yeah, so I did my comedy in 2011, and that's when I started getting into these topics. Started learning about Lark and Rose and voluntarism and Creature from Jekyll Island and all that. Started learning about the Federal Reserve and precious metals, and so my comedy was not really about that. It was more about just me, my family, my wife, my kids, my dog, my mother-in-law. I kept it very personal. No talk of politics, religion, nothing that would be divisive. And so although I do know on Tom Woods, he has interviewed a couple of anarchist or / libertarian comedians, stand-up comedians like Dave Smith, and then there's Andrew Heaton. And there's probably more, but yeah. So I would love to get on more. Like I would love to interview some anarchist stand-up comedians. That's really awesome.
We should get a list together and try to get a little tour, because that would just be so much fun. And when I started doing comedy, I was like you. I was going through a divorce, so a lot of my stage time was just me going through what I was going through, and working it out on stage and kind of just laying my feelings bare. I feel like there's 2 types of comedians. There's like nice guys that want to make people feel better, and there's like assholes that want you to share their pain. And I was kind of like that second type for the first part. And then like as I went through it more, then I started to, inject a little bit more of like my outlook on things that were happening, my opinions. So it's, it's evolved, but I definitely started from the same place that you did. And I think it's really important to keep everything that you say on stage honest and personal. Like if you don't really feel it, if you don't really believe it, I don't think you should just say it for a laugh. So,
right.
Man, I'm super stoked to find out that we've got to do some time on stage together.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I really do miss it though. It's really so much fun. I did it with my brother. We took a comedy class for 7 weeks. And we were getting taught by these pretty big stand-up comedians in Long Island, and he was 19 at the time. And it was really a lot of fun. But I took off more. Like within a span of a year, I probably performed like 40 times in Long Island and Manhattan. And so it was a lot of traveling. I was living in Long Island, so traveling to Manhattan and late nights and all that. And it was just so much fun. You meet amazing people, amazing experiences. You learn about yourself. And one thing that I learned with stand-up comedy is the power of self-deprecation, right? That if you can't laugh at yourself, then that's the first problem. Everyone's going to laugh at you, but you have to be the first one to laugh at yourself, right?
Right.
So people just take themselves too seriously. And I think, like you said, I think the essence of comedy is pain, suffering, misery, right? And because people they have this strange idea that people don't want to know how happy you are, how successful you are, how much money you have, how big your car is, how big your house is. They don't want to know that, right? They want to know how much you suffer, how bad your ex-wife is, or how bad, how horrible or how difficult it is to raise your kids, how you stubbed your toe and it hurt like. That's what they want to know. They want to laugh at you, and it's like my brother. He said something interesting. It's like when you go to a psychologist, you pay to talk to the psychologist, right? Whereas with comedy, they pay to hear you talk.
Right, exactly.
It's an interesting difference.
And I tried some of that stuff. I mean, comedy is the best therapy. If you can get up there and just kind of share your pain,
Right.
afterwards you can walk away with it. And if you've or away from it, and if you've laughed at it, it's just kind of gone, you know?
Right. Yeah. And one thing that I also realized is that if you make fun of yourself, you know, you're a white guy, you make fun of white guys, black guy, or you're a Christian, you're a Jew, you make fun of yourself, whatever it is, that's fine. But once you start making fun of other people, it gets difficult. It gets sticky, because then they're like, oh, you know, if you're skinny, you make fun of fat people, no good, right? You're like, oh man, that guy's a horrible guy, you know. But so go ahead.
Well, I make fun of everyone, dude. Like,
Well, yeah. Then there's
I don't hold
that.
it back. And you're right. Like, you can lose a lot of audiences. I've had there's definite points in my sets where I have jokes that I know I'm going to lose the whole audience on this joke. I'm like, everyone's going to feel uncomfortable now. But those are kind of like for me. You know what I mean? Like, I won't censor myself or hold it back. But there's a lot of crowds, because I mean, I'm in California, bro. Like,
Right.
a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is completely against the grain of what people here believe.
Right.
You know, so it's interesting with a lot. And plus, like in Monterey, the crowds are so diverse, right? Like, you will have super wealthy white people from Pebble Beach, and then you'll have people that work in the fields picking produce, you know, all of these people, a lot of military people, all in one audience. So it's really difficult to kind of bring them together. I've seen a lot of really famous comics completely tank out here because the audience is so weird. It's hard to get them all on board. But if you can, you know that you really have something that reaches a lot of different people, because pretty much you're getting every piece of the socioeconomic pie right there in that room. So
what kinds of topics do you discuss in your comedy?
I don't know. Like I said, most of the stuff that I do is personal, and it's however I'm feeling at the time. But there's a lot of things, like if I see something that bothers me that's topical, I'll talk on it. I'll tell a joke about it. But there's a lot of stuff about, you know, just freedom, personal rights, things like that, where, you know, you have a slightly different view than people, and if you can make fun of them for it.
Yeah, comedy is an excellent way to bring a message. And one thing that has helped me with my volunteerism, because when you talk to people and they have differing beliefs, especially, you know, really, really big status type beliefs, you know, you can criticize them and you can attack them with logic and arguments, like you said before, but you're most likely not going to get to them. So for me, my approach is I want to get them to laugh as soon as possible. So, and once you do that, the barriers go down, the ice is broken, and they like you. You're like, oh, this guy's a cool guy. He's making me laugh, you know. and then when they're just relaxed around you, then you can kind of give them some, you know, voluntarist philosophy or freedom philosophy, and they're more likely to receive it, and they're less likely to feel threatened by it.
Right, exactly.
So we can talk about all this stuff for a while, but yeah, maybe get into a little bit of the call the cops first. Just talk about that for people who are not familiar with that.
So Call the Cops was a video that I made, basically just calling out a lot of the brutality that police, you know, were inflicting on people across the country. And I'm not the kind of, I don't know, it's really interesting. I really write a line on this because a lot of people that support me, I don't necessarily believe the things they think I believe, right? So they're like, well, you support criminals and you hate. It's like, no, I don't support violence against people who aren't violent. I don't support anybody breaking the law, whoever it is. You know, I don't support people getting special rights to do it. It's not that I'm for criminals. So a lot of people misrepresent what it's about. But for me, it wasn't necessarily a personal thing, because people think, well, you're just a minority and you have a gripe against cops because you're uneducated and like they've been like, people have a lot of assumptions. You should see my mail, dude. Like,
really,
it's crazy. Like, you and your thug friends, and like, I went to college on a full academic scholarship. You know, I'm the furthest thing from a criminal you're gonna find. And the reason that I protest against the cops is because, first, they have a monopoly on force. They initiate aggression on more people than pretty much anybody on a daily basis. Like, if I think about the times, like, I've had my car broken into once or twice, but I've received all kinds of interactions with police that I never asked for, ever. You know, just personal experience, like coming out of the store at 10 o'clock at night. I've been surrounded on 2 different occasions by, like, one time it was 10 cops surrounded me. Wow. Right? Like, we got them. I'm like, oh shit, here it comes. And another time, the same thing in a parking lot. Like, and eventually they let me go. Like when I started speaking with them and everything, they were like, well, maybe this isn't the guy who we wanted to get for the robbery down the street. But I've had those experiences. You know, that's something that happened to me. But those individual things that happened to me never really motivated me to go out and make a song about it. Like, look what they did to me. You know, it's just when I started seeing that it was kind of a systemic issue where that the police departments themselves kind of have this culture now where the people don't even care about being morally just, right? They kind of have this sense of, you know, we'll protect each other. We're going to go out there. We're just going to try to come home for dinner. We're going to protect each other. We're going to make sure that we survive. And it becomes this kind of a mindset where now you have a person that's supposed to uphold the law, but even if they know that one of their friends is breaking the law, they're not going to publicize it. They're not going to say anything because otherwise they're going to be considered a rat, and then the other cops aren't going to help them, and there's going to be retribution. So, I mean, it just stunk of hypocrisy to me, and I feel like it's something that's part of the culture. It's part of the culture of police departments. I mean, I know police officers, first of all. One of my best friends is a cop, best guy in the world. You know, I've known him since I was 12. A lot of the people, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of the people that I train with are law enforcement officers, right? They're great people as individuals. Like, if you just talk with them, they're great guys. But when you put people in a position where they're part of a system, even if you're just a good guy as part of a bad system, you can accomplish a lot of bad through that. So I just wanted to draw attention to those things. And talking to people about it didn't work because I'd get these stock responses like, well, if you don't commit a crime, then you won't get beat up. Or if you just obey, then you don't have a problem. And I'm like, no, dude, because if I'm free and I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't have to obey. You know, like, I'm not going to obey. How about that? Right? Like, how about you just don't aggress on me? So coming back and forth with these arguments, seeing all the incidents that were piling up, I was like, I just need to create something that's going to blast through it. And I was like, what can you do? And I was like, I'm just going to take all of these clips of people getting their ass whooped, and I'm going to put it to a beat, and I'm going to make a song about it, and then I'm going to say, argue with that. You know what I mean? Argue with that. So I put it out there, and honestly, I didn't think anyone was going to watch it. I thought it would get a couple hundred views. It took me months to get all this. It took like forever to edit that, bring it down, because I didn't want to just take anything, right? I didn't want to just take anything. So we picked certain things to put them into the video, edited it, worked on it forever, and we put it out. And I didn't think anyone was going to watch it at all, but it kind of blew up. It blew up in a huge way, and kind of blew up. Yeah, it did well, you know. So I mean, on Facebook, it didn't do so good because they tried to get my Facebook account banned. So like, there was all kinds of pushback on Facebook, but on not Facebook, sorry, YouTube. YouTube tried to get my stuff.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
Yeah, immediately. Like, I got reported and flagged for community violations. But on Facebook, a lot of people shared it, and it got huge views. Like, you know D.L. Hughley?
No.
He's a comedian, black comedian.
Oh, maybe. Okay, maybe.
Like, he shared it, and it got like 29 million views off of his
Whoa.
shit. And so stuff like that happened. Like, other people started sharing it. So I was like, wow, man, there are people that are actually interested in this kind of stuff. So, you know, I put that out there. And then kind of the motivation for Good Cops was the top response to call the cops was like, yeah, okay, so those cops were beating people up, but those are just the bad cops. 99% of cops are good cops.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if they were, then wouldn't they just arrest the bad cops? Because it's not a secret. Like, everybody knows what's going on.
Right.
Or is it that the good cops look out for the bad cops? Is it that there's a culture of police protecting each other so that they don't get in trouble, or so that there's not legal liability that the city has to pay for, or so that there's not bad press? Is it that police unions have instituted agreements where even if the police chief knows that the cop is bad, they can't fire him, or they fire the guy and he gets a job in another thing? Maybe it's just that the good cops are part of a corrupt system, so you know, it's not the apple that's rotten, it's the whole barrel.
Right.
I mean, so that was kind of the motivation for those two projects.
The idea of you know, the person saying, well, why don't you just obey the law? You'll be fine. Well, my response to that would be, do you know the tens of thousands of laws that exist in the Federal Registry? And do you obey them all? There's a book by Harvey Silverglate, who's a lawyer. It's called 3 Felonies a Day. I think how the feds like punish the innocent, something like that. And basically saying how every single day we all unknowingly commit 3 felonies a day, just because of the sheer magnitude of number of laws and regulations and taxes that are on the books. Nobody knows the full extent of that. No politician, no bureaucrat, no legislator, nobody. They write these laws. They don't even read them half the time. And so one of the reasons for that, I think, is it's just like, if they want to get you, they're going to get you on something, right? If they don't like you, they're going to get you on something. So this idea that you just have to obey, no, it's complete crap. Well, okay, go ahead.
Laws are just rules made by politicians, right? Politicians are people that are influenced by any number of groups with their own agendas. Right. So trying to equate morality with legality is kind of a slippery slope, because you're only going to be as moral as the politicians that write the laws you're obeying. You know, like it doesn't make sense to me to try to say, well, I obey all these laws, therefore I'm a good person. That just doesn't equate, because politicians are the ones making the laws. Do you think politicians are the most moral people around? Because I don't, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's a meme one of my friends posted, and you see, I think it's in communist China, Red China, and it's like in front of those big pits, you know, where they kill people and they just fall in the pit, and the guy with a gun is, you know, has a gun to the guy's head, and it says, "When should you disobey the law?" And it says, "Anytime before this." So basically, you know, if we want to, like you said, if we want to establish a correlation between legality and morality, if you look back in history, the things that were considered legal and acceptable are today considered horrific crimes against humanity, including chain slavery, including Jim Crow segregation, including the Japanese internment camps during World War II, you know, including the drug war, including all this kind of stuff, you know. If you want to measure yourself against the law, you're going to have
all the really greatest crimes were legal.
Right. Right. That's a major point, is that, you know, people are always afraid about, you know, this, you know, I talk about anarchy and voluntarism in a stateless society. They're like, what if you're in a dark alley and a guy has a gun and there's no police? What are you going to do then in your little anarchy society? And the way I look at it is, that guy is not a threat right now, because right now there are much greater atrocities happening under the color of law, in the name of law, by agents of the state, right? You know, if you're talking about law enforcement or if you're talking about soldiers overseas, many more crimes are being committed that are legal than those that are committed that are illegal. So yeah, it just falls flat in his face.
Plus, individual criminals can oppress individuals, you know, but only governments can oppress entire populations, you know, entire continents, right? Things like that. The biggest threat doesn't come from a lone criminal with a gun.
Right, definitely. And I mean, you know, when you talk about cops, it's just, there's so many things. The fact that it's a monopoly, they have no competition. The fact that you're forced to pay them. You know, the fact that one of your charges can be resisting arrest, right? even if it's for something completely ridiculous, resisting arrest.
That can be the only charge.
Oh my God.
That could be the only charge. How do you get the only charge is resisting arrest?
Oh man, I mean, and I mean, just the fact, just looking at the war on drugs alone, you know, punishing people for smoking a plant, or for having possession of a plant, or being in a car with a plant. You know, it's like, what kind of world do we live in? You know, it's like, I remember a cartoon I saw where you see an alien spaceship come down, and the aliens come off the ship, and they see you know, soldiers and police officers pointing their machine guns at the plant, and they're like, you humans are retarded.
I mean, you should be able to put anything. Do you own your body or don't you, right? Like, right. You should be able to put whatever you want to inside of your body or not, and no one should have a say over that. I mean, if I start like hurting other people, okay, maybe at that point we can have a talk. But if I'm just putting something into my own body and you're telling me that I can't, then you're asserting that you control my body and not me, and I just have a problem with that.
Yeah, and another thing people say is, you know, when I talk about anarchy and voluntarism, is every time they say, they give an example, it's always a crime with a victim. They're like, again, you're in a back alley, somebody with a gun, what are you going to do? No police around. They never say, in your anarchy society, what if somebody doesn't want to pay taxes? What if somebody is driving without their left tail light? What if somebody is driving without, they never say that. It's always a crime with a victim, right? They never mention the victimless crime. What if somebody is in their basement smoking a joint by themselves? Because it's completely absurd. So as when we're talking about law, everybody understands that crimes with a victim are immoral. You don't need to make them illegal. They're already immoral. So making them illegal is just redundant.
No, you're right.
Right? And everybody understands that, but for some reason, without the cops, everybody would just go crazy, killing, cannibalizing, murdering children, and it'd be mayhem and chaos, right? So,
well, I think the idea of being responsible for protecting yourself terrifies a lot of people. I think a lot of people identify at their core level as victims. They identify as victims, and they really want someone to protect them, and so they kind of crave that. They're willing to give up whatever it takes to get that safety. They're willing to trade their freedom, their liberty, whatever, for that feeling or that illusion of safety. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're responsible for yourself. And I think once people like learn that and kind of internalize it, then it kind of liberates them from that mentality. I mean, one of the things so I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. And when you first start doing, like when you're a white belt, when you first start rolling, a lot of times people spaz out. They you put a choke on them and they're freaking out. Their adrenaline is surging. Everything's happening because they've never actually been in a conflict. They've never actually felt what it feels like to have your lights going out, to about to be go unconscious. I mean, just any kind of physical contact that's aggressive at all freaks people out a lot. And some people can deal with it, some people can't. After a while, after you've been doing it for over 10 years like I have, someone's choking you out and you're pretty calm about it, but you're not afraid of any kind of a confrontation. I'm very calm with people. A lot of times people get irate. They like to talk a lot. They like to threaten a lot about things, but it's almost always people that can't really back it up. They're not serious about it. They just feel that fear that they have because they don't want to be hurt. They don't want someone to hurt them. So they panic. But I feel like if you can defend yourself and you're confident in your ability to do so, it lets you walk around very calm, kind of confident. You don't have to respond to everything hysterically because, it's just something that you're prepared to do. So I don't know. I feel like that's an important thing for people is if you want to be independent and you want to be free, then you need to take responsibility for yourself, for your own protection, for, providing for yourself. And once you actually can do that, you'll be able to relax a lot more.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful things that I love about voluntarists and anarchists is their focus on self-responsibility and claiming ownership over your actions, right? Not shirking responsibility to someone else. I was told to do that. I was just doing my job. No, you're responsible for your actions. And I love that. And that's a wonderful thing. And even going, like you said, self-defense, if you don't want to rely on the police because they're a monopoly on violence and they can do whatever they want when you call them, it's very good to know self-defense. It's very good to be armed and trained and understand how to use those things. And that's a wonderful thing. That's what I want, an armed society is a polite society, right? So yeah, before we go, please talk about your project, the Ugandan Hope, and what that's about.
This is a great project. So, there's a lot of problems, obviously, in Africa. And a lot of times people's solutions to these problems is to say, well, let's take money from people and let's have the government give it to other people over there. And then we'll have those organizations, kind of do things with it. And it's not very effective. Very rarely is it an effective program. A much better program for Africans, for Ugandans, would be if the people there got skills training, if they had jobs, if they had entrepreneurs that were teaching people to do things, that were creating businesses, that were employing people locally, and that weren't beholden to NGO, like non-governmental organizations, governments. They weren't relying on handouts. They weren't relying on people giving them charity. They were actually earning and creating. So the cool thing that I like about this project is that my friend Anthony, has a plan to build restaurants. So he wants to start with one restaurant in Gulu, Uganda, and the plan for the restaurant is he's going to build it, and then he's going to train and hire local people in the culinary arts, right? So not only is he going to have a place to feed people, but he will take local people and give them jobs. Not only will he give them jobs, he will give them job skills, right? You can start out at a low level, washing dishes, bussing tables. But then they're also going to need someone who can manage inventory. They're going to need someone who can manage the restaurant, who can start, taking on additional responsibilities. And if you have those skills, you can take those skills anywhere. They're always going to be needed. Once there's enough people in place that have a high enough level of skill, the hope is to open another one in a nearby town, so that you're creating a business, but at the same time you're training people, you're giving them jobs, and you're building up the economy. This way, they don't need to put their hand out to anyone.
Right.
They're earning their money.
Right.
They're making a difference, and they have a job. So it's a sustainable thing. Whereas a lot of these programs are just people going around asking for more, and then if they get it, governments are taking it from someone else. I'm not down with that model, but what Anthony's doing is something cool, and I think more people should look at these apprenticeship models to try to give people skills, give people careers, and make a profit on it and use that to better themselves,
Yeah, that really reminds me of a video from Learn Liberty called 3 Ways Sweatshops Bring People Out of Poverty. Because, the people have this idea that, when a company moves overseas and plants a factory somewhere in a third world country or a very poor country, that they're being exploited. But like you said, people want to work. They want to earn their money. They don't want to just get handouts, and like
Nobody
you said,
wants that. I mean, maybe some people do, but for the most part, people don't want that. People want to work. They want opportunity. And if you give it to them, they can succeed. I mean, let me give you a personal anecdote, okay? My grandfather lived in the Philippines, right? He's from the Philippines. My father was born in the Philippines. My grandfather fought in the war. Like he wanted to get his family out of the Philippines, right? He wanted a better life for them. So he fought he joined up as a soldier because that seemed like an opportunity to him. They came over here, and after the war, my dad and my grandparents worked as, field laborers. They picked strawberries in the fields. They picked produce like migrant workers.
Right.
Hung my uncle in a sack, picked strawberries all day for almost nothing. At the same time, they all went to school. We were all, not we, but my parents were really guided into having solid education, went to college, got degrees within one generation. All of our family is professionals. We all have an education. I'm not saying that the education system, I'm not advocating for that, but what I'm saying is that if you give people the opportunity to do things, they can succeed, but it's on the people themselves to do it. So instead of, if you would reverse that situation and just kind of given my grandfather money and kind of given him this mindset where, instead of trying to build your dream and work hard for it, that you just try to survive off of off the scraps you're given. I think that mindset limits you. I mean, there's literally nothing that can stop you if you don't believe you can be stopped. But if you already believe that you're limited and you can't do it, there's nothing that anyone can do to help you out of that. So I think it's important that we support programs and entrepreneurs that foster that, instead of programs that are basically just welfare for people that will keep them in that situation forever.
Yeah, let me just say before we wrap up, that reminds me of a cartoon where you see, the people in a pit, with their hands up, poor people, and then people on the top. And the government solution to poverty is, they're saying, we need more food, give them food. And the free market solution is they're putting down a ladder. We need more rungs on the ladder
Right.
so they can lift themselves out of poverty, right?
Exactly.
To treat people like the way they treat them, when you donate money and you give them, foreign aid and all this stuff, you're treating them like, I don't know, inferiors, like pets, like, you have to, you're dehumanizing them basically. So, you have to, like you said, give them skills, basic skills, and then on top of which they can improve themselves and get better skills and, rise themselves up. So yeah, awesome conversation. So yeah, please, before you go, can you plug your sites, how people can reach you if they want to contact you and follow you?
Yeah, if anyone wants to contact me, you can see my website, robhustle.com, or you can reach out to me on Facebook, facebook.com/robhustle. I'm pretty active on there, and I respond to most requests. So if anyone wants to reach out, I'd be glad to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Yes, please do reach out. He's doing some awesome work. Share his video, Good Cops. It's a new one. So, and if you want to help me out, you can do so through Bitcoin, Patreon, or PayPal. Links are below. There's patreon.com/peacefuanarchism to help me out. $1 show is all I ask. I offer these shows for free, but monetary compensation is always appreciated and encouraged because, you know, we all respond to incentives, right? We are capitalists in the end. So if you want to help me interview fascinating people like Rob here, please help me out. So awesome conversation, Rob. Thanks a lot for coming on the show.
So much.
No problem. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network on theseedsofliberty.com and theconsciousresistance.com. Wishing all of you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
Peace.
You're listening to Peaceful Anarchism with your host, Danilo Cuellar, presented by Some Next Level Podcasts on the SNLS Network.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to bipcot.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.